Death Wish, which is the Bruce Willis film directed by Eli Roth. And this film I think I saw this in a back-to-back with Red Sparrow. And
Oh, that must have been a set of Whiplash.
yeah, and I mean this movie's really simple. It's a revenge film, just like the original Death Wish was. Bruce Willis' family, they get hurt. Wife ends up dead. A daughter ends up in a coma from a robbery gone bad, and that sets Bruce Willis off, and that sets him off and leads him down a path of finding out who's the people that did it, and him going out with a gun and doing it himself. And I mean, honestly, I don't think Bruce Willis has ever looked more bored. I mean, I think he's just kind of sleepwalking through this. It's like almost like he FaceTimed in his performance, because he's just honestly walking around this movie kind of bored and lazy. And that's how like a lot of this movie feels, just kind of incredibly lazy and uninspired. I mean, Eli Roth, who come in there, it feels like this movie kind of want to make some type of satire statement about gun culture and about gun control, maybe, because it's like a scene where he walks into a gun shop and after seeing a commercial on TV for it and says, I want to buy a gun, how long is it going to take me? He's like, well, the process must be kind of long, right, to buy a gun. And then the woman's like, oh, nah, all you got to do is just fill out these papers, take some stupid course. You don't even have to go to the course. And you could just pick up your gun in no time, which, okay, I've never bought a gun, so I don't know if that's really true or not. I've never done that before.
Gun laws vary depending on state to state. For the most part, you do need to fill paperwork. There's always a 3-day waiting period for any buying of any firearm, unless you go to a gun show, which let's just be honest, you can kind of fudge it and screw around with it. Most are pretty honest about it, but you don't have to be. Most actually do encourage, though, that you take courses and understand how the weapon works. There is a mandatory few things, but honestly, yeah, there's not much from stopping you from purchasing a gun. It's fairly simple to acquire.
Yeah, okay, because he goes to the shop. He's like, yeah, but then he noticed,
again, depending on the state.
Yeah, because this is in Chicago, so this takes place in Chicago.
Okay, I don't know anything about Chicago. I don't know. I only know Virginia laws.
Okay,
and West Virginian.
All right. So yeah, maybe I should look that up, check that out. But he doesn't even buy the gun at the shop anyway. Like he ends up getting it somewhere else.
Awesome, waste of a scene.
Yeah, so he ends up getting it. Well, actually, that scene does come back actually, in a way, and then some of the stuff like there's other things in the film that kind of hint to some kind of political kind of thing. Where, for instance, when his wife dies, he goes to bury her in her, back in her original, hometown. And he's talking with, I think, her father, and he's discussing, a gun, and he's like, there's poachers on his land, and he's shooting at the poachers. He's like, a gun, that's what you need, like the cops, they come only after the crime is done, but what's stopping, what's stopping them from actually preventing the crime? You need to be there to, a man needs to protect his family. So, I don't know. I mean, it seems like kind of this weird thing, especially now. Like a lot of people are talking about, is this movie ill-timed because of the recent, gun, things that have been going on recently, like Parkland. And this movie actually got delayed before because of another shooting that happened, and they pushed it back. And I guess they decided not to push it back again. I mean, the marketing for this film hasn't been crazy. I've seen a few.
No, I've barely seen anything about it.
Yeah, I've seen a few trailers here and there, so it's probably them just trying to push it out there to just get it over with because they already pushed it back once. And like I said, I mean, there's nothing really remarkably special about this at all. I mean, it's just you go see it and okay, it's some lame kind of revenge action movie. There's some cool death scenes in the movie because it's Eli Roth, and I was like, okay, he can make some real gore stuff really go like, ooh, that was
right.
That was kind of cool.
He is the guy who did the Hostel franchise, at least the first two movies. He also did more recently Green Inferno in 2014, which was just ridiculous with gore. Yeah, and he has a penchant for gore.
Yeah, so I mean, you get a lot of that sense here, and there's some cool shot like gun shootout in the movie that are pretty funny and pretty cool. Like he just walks up on one guy and goes, "Hey, are you that person?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." Which that kind of scene didn't really work for me all that much because like the skills that he learns to like work a gun and like put it back together, fire the gun, do all this other stuff. Like, you know how he does all that stuff, figures all that stuff out.
Right.
It is YouTube. Just go to YouTube. Figure it like YouTube is everything. Like everything he just Googles on YouTube and does everything like that. And I'm like, I don't know if like he can get the drop on somebody like that. Even though that was a cool scene, I was just like, I mean, this dude has been knowing how to use a gun for how long, and then he's gonna be able to get the drop on that guy like that.
Who are you? Your last customer.
And you don't ever really see him kind of gripping with killing people, like especially a guy who's a doctor. He's a doctor who's saving lives, who spends his whole days, you know, pulling bullets out of people, saving lives. Like you don't ever really see him gripping with the fact that, hey, I'm actually killing people now. I'm taking life. Like you never really see him really kind of struggle with that at all. And I thought that would have been kind of an interesting thing to go in there, but they don't put that in there at all. And you have Vincent D'Onofrio plays his brother, you know, who's like his deadbeat brother, and he's always asking for money. Vincent D'Onofrio, I mean, again, like he's just kind of, I mean, sleepwalking through it. I mean, like a lot of people kind of are. I mean, this is just kind of basic kind of stuff, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing really remarkable.
It's kind of a shame considering where the movies have come from. If you didn't know, the first movie, Death Wish, was released in 1974. It was based on the novel written by Brian Garfield. Very different ending and tone compared to the actual novel. The novel was actually against vigilantism, but the movie was kind of, at the end, kind of really good with it and fine with it. The first three movies were directed by Michael Winner. If you don't know who Michael Winner is, I highly recommend a documentary called Electric Boogaloo: The History of Canon. I highly recommend it. You'll learn a lot about Michael Winner, and it makes a lot of sense when you understand how the Death Wish franchise really got off. The role was played by Paul Kersey. I'm sorry, the role of Paul Kersey was played by Charles Bronson, who had slowly kind of decayed over the time, and that was just kind of one of the things he could kind of do.
Right.
The first movie, well, not exactly really liked. It had a lot of mixed reviews. It did come out during the time where there was a lot of violence and a lot of, well, I mean, what is vigilantism? If we can't protect ourselves, and who can we? And it also added a little bit more depth that Paul Kersey in the movie and in the novel were both conscientious objectors, even during the war when they served as combat medics. And his Paul Kersey learned how to shoot because his father was a hunter, but his father died in a hunting accident, dying from his own gun, and so he swore off firearms. And it's only until the brutal killing and raping of his wife and daughter that he swings in action, and is still at the test of time. It's still been controversial. Death Wish 2 continued that controversy under canon. Some almost 8 years, almost, I want to say 8 years later, in 1982, and then in 1985, which was Death Wish 3, whatever controversy that was left from Death Wish 2, which was just horrible and really lame and not very good. 3 just said, screw it, we're just gonna have fun. It's just gonna be ridiculous violence, and who cares? So it's not like the Death Wish franchise had much integrity left,
Right.
And that doesn't even count Death Wish 4, The Crackdown, and Death Wish 5, The Face of Death, which even people who've watched the 3 Death Wish movies are like, yeah, you don't have to see those.
Yeah. So
those aren't. Yeah.
Okay, so you know, now that, I mean, we're in the time that we're in, because the 70s, you know, you had people like that, you know, vigilante justice, like you said, those type of people. I mean, how do you think this type of movie applies to today's society? Because like one issue I had with the movie is with the Bruce Willis Death Wish is that they do a lot of like cutaways to radio stations talking about this guy, and like, you know, Sway in the Morning, and like Man Cow, and like, you know, like he's doing what the cops can't do, and he's protecting, you know, the city and all this type of stuff. Like, how do you think that plays in today's political environment as opposed to the 70s political environment when this movie came out?
I would argue that the book actually has. I'd actually argue that the book has a lot more weight now than it did then, mostly because it has more merit.
Mm.
It's a lot more of like what happens when somebody's life is completely turned, and then they just and what happens when vengeance attacks them. It's a good placement of if you let yourself get drowned out by anger and hate and what that can transform you into. And the book does actually have a lot more to say than it's only in like the last 50 pages that he actually even kills anybody in the actual novel.
Right.
And afterwards he feels horrible. And it's more like he questions like was there a validity in it even though they did these horrible things, and he does it makes him question it even further. So in that merit, I would say yes, that would actually be I think that would actually be a good subject to bring up now. Because I know there's a lot of argument about the NRA and guns and our political climate at the moment and the recent shooting, of course.
Right.
I would like for at least a conversation to happen.
Right.
I don't think this movie's doing the conversation any favors. I think on one hand, if you just go around with a guy shooting everybody, really extreme right-leaning, and I don't mean like within their right mind, I mean crazy people will say, oh, that's exactly how it should be done. Man should take care of his family. He's going to go and kill those people. Justice can't do it, then screw them. But at the same time, if you on the left side, they go, well, it's like he's just as much as a monster as everyone else. And this is what happens when you don't have understand equality. And what about the women? They were barely shown as objects to move the plot forward, and just they both missed the point entirely. So I don't think the movie does much favors for anybody. And I'm gonna be honest, even the original Death Wish, I don't think it did them much favor other than starting a conversation. But the book, I would recommend the book. Like that actually has a conversation and does talk about both sides and tries to find a resting middle and tries to find the equal balance of when does vengeance kind of when does justice turn to vengeance, and is that acceptable ever? So I'd like to see that movie get made.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem like that's the movie.
No.
So this I don't know, man. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's just me. I'd like a conversation, and I just like a quiet one.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that may be good if you just watch it, maybe just on TV at home. I don't think this is something you got to go out to the theater to go see at all. Like, just wait till it probably comes on TV. And so, I mean, I give it a thumbs down for that. It's like, this ain't nothing spectacular. Just wait till it comes on TV. I mean, this ain't nothing spectacular.
Hello, thanks for checking out our content. If you liked it, let us know, and if you didn't, let us know that as well. If you want to see more content, we post every Saturday on SoundCloud and YouTube at The Afternoon Tune. You can also find us through various social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all one word at The Afternoon Tune. And if you don't deal with any of that social media stuff, you can also find us through our email at theafternoontune@gmail.com. And don't forget to always stay tuned.